back to History on the Edge after our summer break. I'm very happy to announce today's lecturer, and today Francesca Rolandi will be speaking. She is a research fellow and a lecturer at the University of Florence, and also a member of the ERC project Humanitarism and Mediterranean Europe, a transnational and comparative perspective. And today she will present a paper that is a part of this research, and it's titled Humanitarism, the Yugoslav Way, War Divisions and Alternative Patterns to International Aid. So, Francesca, the stage is yours.
Okay, so hello everybody, and many thanks for having me here. I'm honored to be part of this series of presentation. My research is still ongoing, so I'm also very much looking forward for your feedback and comments and possible questions. So I will start with the pictures of those two men who never met in their lives. Their only commonality was the fact that both their lives were affected to a greater or a lesser extent by the Biafra crisis. On the left, you can see the picture of Dragan Herzog, a Yugoslav doctor who was killed in Biafra in October 1968, while he was member of a Yugoslav medical unit in the framework of a mission of the International Committee of the Red Cross. On the right, you can see Vladimir Palecek, an agronomist who was the founder of the Hungry Child, Hladnovojne, who was the only large-scale NGO founded in socialist Yugoslavia, and it was founded in 1969, and the first initiative that it undertook was the delivery of aid to Biafra. So why did I decide to start from these figures? Because they both epitomize different understandings of humanitarianism in socialist Yugoslavia, which were somehow alternative to ideologically driven solidarity initiative promoted in the framework of the Socialist Alliance of the Working People. And I will return to this in a minute. So first, I wanted to spend a couple of words on the structure of this presentation. I will start with the theoretical foundation of this project, and then I will move on to illustrate two different responses to the Nigerian crisis that originated in Yugoslavia. So first, I will talk about the Yugoslav participation to the ICRC mission to Nigeria and Biafra, and I will then move on to explore the rise of the organization Hungry Child, and I will then try to draw some conclusions. So we are all familiar with the flourishing of studies on the global dimension of state socialism. And in this framework, recently we also had several new studies on state socialism and solidarity, or the so-called red socialism, which has been explored looking at its ideological foundations, international and domestic reverberations, and also with an interest for the conflict, for the conflicting understandings of humanitarianism, especially along the East-West divide. Yugoslavia is no exception. We also have many studies on Yugoslavia and the global South, ranging from geopolitical developments to the issue of race. But we also have new studies and new ongoing projects on humanitarianism in socialist Yugoslavia. There is an upcoming book by Charna Brkovic on the Yugoslav Red Cross and its attempts at word making, and so how the Red Cross of Yugoslavia attempted to influence the international Red Cross movement. There are also studies on the convergences between self-management and humanitarianism, and also how the Yugoslav ideological pillars adapted to solidarity initiatives in the global south, I will just mention. Research by Jelena Đurejnović and Dora Toth. Before returning to the Yugoslav context, let's have a look at the broader international context and the period of time I will focus on. I will focus especially on the late 1960s, which are regarded as a watershed in international humanitarianism. The Biafra crisis was regarded as a watershed in international humanitarianism for at least three factors. The first is the rise of NGOs, not just in numbers, but in their scope. So for the first time, during the Nigerian Biafra crisis, NGOs became operational, which meant that they started delivering aid to war zones. The second factor is the activism of religious organization, faith-based organization, which became some of the main actors. And this is partially connected to the fact that at least part of the Nigerian territory had experienced missions. So there was a long-standing tradition of missionaries active in Biafra, in the Biafra region. But we also have to take into account the context of the Second Vatican Council with the attempts at ecumenical dialogue. And so these initiatives often saw Catholic and Protestant churches acting jointly. The third element, which is perhaps the most important, is the fact that the Biafra crisis captured the international attention in a way which was unprecedented. So photographs of starving children, of swollen bellies, made the headlines of newspapers, on television. There was a kind of bottom-up mobilization, which was okay. There is a lot of debate in scholarship about the degree of spontaneity in this mobilization. We can say that there was an entanglement between a new. Sorry, I don't feel very well. May I take a break? A 2-minute break? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I think I'm back again. So maybe I will go a step behind because I think that I got a bit lost before. Maybe I will give just a short insight into the events that led to the Biafra crisis. So the war in Nigeria started in 1967 after extensive violence against the Igbo population. There was a refugee influx into the region of Biafra, where the majority of the population were Igbo. And after that, the Biafra region proclaimed independence, and there was a reaction by the Nigerian military that attacked Biafra and imposed a blockade, which resulted in a famine on a large scale. So this is the general international context. So why I will go through the main points made by international historiography, why the Biafra crisis is important because of the rise of NGOs, because of the activism of religious organizations, and because of the image of the crisis that circulated worldwide. So for the first time, it was not the first humanitarian crisis on that scope, of course, but for the first time, the local authorities, in that case, the Biafra authorities, carefully used images of that crisis for propaganda purposes. So the topic of humanitarian emergency was used to secure support for their cause in the Western public opinion, hoping that the Western public opinion would exert pressure on their governments to recognize Biafra. On the other hand, such depictions of starving children convey an image of recipients of aid as passive subjects, disempowered subjects, mere bodies that had to be fed. And this was used to justify the need for intervention. So scholarship has stressed how this sense of urgency somehow obscured the analysis of the causes of the famine and led to a depoliticization of the whole issue. And this is often the issue with the campaigns against the hunger in the world. So a topic which has been extensively depoliticized. The Irish historian Kevin O'Sullivan, in his book, The NGO Moment, has stressed that in the broader dimension of humanitarian engagement, such a narrative clashed with the other understandings of the world inequalities that were circulated. For instance, those related to the new international economic order, as we know, was a platform claiming, among other things, that aid risked to be only a palliative, and only radical economic reforms could have improved the living conditions in what was called the Third War. So one of the slogans of the new international economic order was trade, not aid, fair trade, not aid. So if we zoom in on Yugoslavia, we can see that in the late 1960s, there was a liberalization drive. In 1968, we have the student protests, which were the first sign of a new era of unrest. In Croatia, this resulted in a movement championing the revival of national identity, the Croatian Spring, which was later followed by a crackdown motivated by allegations of nationalism from 1971. Moreover, and this is important especially for the case of the hungry child, there were new spaces of maneuver opening up for the Catholic Church in Yugoslavia as a consequence of the rapprochement between Yugoslavia and the Vatican, the new spirit of the Second Vatican Council, and the call for ecumenical dialogue. But the 1960s were also crucial for the global ties that Yugoslavia established with the global South. And if we look at the realm of solidarity initiatives, in 1967, the Socialist Alliance of the Working People, which was the well-known umbrella organization gathering all socio-political organizations, in 1967, they launched the first campaigns in support of Arabic countries after the Six-Day War and Vietnam. And this practice would evolve in the Solidarity Weeks that were held annually. So those campaigns were meant not only at collecting donations, but also informing the public, cultivating internationalist awareness, but also keep the society mobilized, as it was explained in this leaflet, which was produced for internal use. So the idea that those campaigns had to have an educational, political, and political mobilizing function in domestic politics. And my colleague Dora Toth has an article on Solidarity Weeks, which will come out soon. So there was a clear agenda behind that. But I think that this ideologically charged understanding was not the only form of solidarity that was practiced in Yugoslavia. From the mid-1950s, we all know that Yugoslavia's geopolitical position as an alternative to both blocs and as the leader of the non-aligned movement made international organizations willing to have it on board. And this was also the case of the International Committee of the Red Cross. Already in 1961, Yugoslavia sent a medical team to Congo in the framework of an ICRC humanitarian mission. And in 1968, the ICRC reached out some Red Cross national societies that were perceived as acceptable by both belligerents, so the Nigerian federal government on one side and the Biafran authorities. We have to bear in mind that the Nigerian civil war was deeply embedded in both post-colonial rearrangement and the Cold War confrontation, but in somewhat an unlikely manner, because the UK, which was the former colonial power, and the Soviet Union both supported the Nigerian federal side, while France and also Portugal indirectly supported Biafra, but without recognizing it. So Yugoslavia responded to this call together with the Scandinavian countries, Switzerland, and the US, but the Yugoslav press did not advertise the fact that the United States joined these initiatives. And Yugoslavia sent two medical units to both the Nigerian and Biafran side. And when the war broke out, the Yugoslav press displayed a balanced attitude towards this context. So on one hand, it acknowledged the need to recognize the complex ethnic mosaic in these newly independent African states and the need for more autonomy, but on the other hand, it was against the secession of Biafra, and we can all understand why. And we also have to bear in mind that Nigeria was a member of the non-aligned movement. Herzog was part of the team. It is the second from the left, was part of the team that was sent to Biafra. And he was unlucky enough to find himself in Okigwe when the town was seized by the Nigerian forces. Upon ICRC's instructions, the Red Cross personnel did not retreat with the Biafra forces. And when the Nigerian army arrived, an obscure incident took place. A Nigerian soldier shot Herzog, a Swedish delegate, and wounded 3 or 4 other humanitarian workers, including the head of the Yugoslav team, Mihailo Vucinic. So Herzog's funeral was held with all honors in Belgrade in the presence of the ICRC delegates. The president of the Red Cross of Yugoslavia, Đuro Mešterović, pronounced a discourse in which he described Herzog as a passionate doctor, and he was very careful in stressing the connection between the Red Cross principles and Yugoslav imperatives. So he stressed the fact that Herzog was inspired by the spirit of socialist humanism. His background fit into the Yugoslav ideological framework. He had joined the League of Communists already in high school, but he decided to become a doctor following the example of his father, fallen for Yugoslavia's freedom. His father had been killed by Gestapo in 1941. And there were also references to the fact that Herzog decided to leave for Biafra because he was moved by the history of our people and the history of our military services and the memory of heroism of several foreign medical missions which served in the Yugoslav territory during all the wars of the 20th century. So these connections were multiple, and also one of the ICRC delegates had spent a time in the framework of a medical mission in Yugoslavia during the Second World War. But despite this narrative, Herzog's assassination was followed by a crisis in the relation of Yugoslavia, not only with the Nigerian government, but also with the ICRC. So according to the official explanation provided by the Nigerian authorities, Herzog had been killed by a drunk soldiers, but Yugoslavia rejected this explanation because it was kind of downscaling the responsibility of the Nigerian government, and it also criticized the ICRC for endorsing this explanation. At that time, the ICRC was attempting not to steer additional tensions, and in order to secure access to the Nigerian territory, to the territory under control of the Nigerian army, although tensions would grow higher and higher, and ultimately the ICRC will be kicked out of Nigeria in the second half of 1969. So I'm still in the process of understanding what happened at the diplomatic level, and I hope that I will find some clues in the diplomatic archives in Belgrade. I will go there in 2 weeks. But what I can see from both the Yugoslav press and the documents of the Red Cross of Yugoslavia is that support for Biafra emerged throughout Yugoslavia. And this is possibly connected with the international mobilization. It is possible connected with the shock caused by Herzog's assassination, but we can also speculate on whether this was connected to major events occurring in Europe, and in particular I'm thinking about the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in August 1968, because the Soviet Union was one of the main sponsors of the Nigerian government. So Herzog's assassination triggered an extensive media coverage, and there was a widespread reporting on the brutality of the Nigerian army. Interestingly, in the months to come, a debate on the definition of genocide applied to the events in Biafra took place in at least 2 Yugoslav media outlets, but the most significant one was on the weekly NIN, in which Aleksandar Mišić, who was the only Yugoslav journalist who had been an eyewitness of the Biafran tragedy and was very, very close to the Red Cross. I still have to understand how, but it is regarded as a Red Cross journalist. Mišić supported this stance, and we have to bear in mind that the genocide argument was one of the main arguments championed by the Biafran authorities to get some resonance in Western circles. So evidences of genocide would have pushed should have pushed the Western government to intervene. In Western countries, there were also several voices arguing for the need of speaking out, so breaking the wall of silence, the wall of impartiality, and the most important was that of Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. In the Yugoslav context, Mišić was the one that played this role of speaking out. And what is important here is that this shaped the humanitarian response planned by Yugoslavia. The Red Cross of Yugoslavia finally decided to continue cooperation with the ICRC, but on its own conditions, and it agreed to send another medical unit to the territory of Biafra only. However, the President Mešterović also explored alternative paths to humanitarian aid. In particular, he explored the possibility of sending Yugoslav medical units in cooperation with the French Red Cross or independently from the ICRC. And the French Red Cross was, in practice, acting independently from Geneva, because it established the direct contacts with the Biafra authorities and deployed humanitarian aid in the framework of French overall support for Biafra. So we can see that in this case, humanitarian aid not only followed foreign policy directions, but it contributed in shaping or testing possible geopolitical constellations. So those plans remain on paper since the conditions on the field deteriorated and the third Yugoslav medical team never reached Biafra. So in the first part of this presentation, I try to show how humanitarian aid provided by the Red Cross, in particular by national Red Cross societies, is entangled with geopolitical alliances, but in a dynamic manner, not only following foreign policies, but also testing new paths. But we have seen at the beginning that the humanitarian effort in support of Biafra is regarded as a turning point, particularly for the emergence of new non-state actors that gain legitimacy, while international organizations were very cautious in that context. The United Nations did not intervene in Nigeria and Biafra because it was regarded as a domestic matter. So I think that the Yugoslav NGO moment, and I'm using this definition in a kind of provocative manner, was epitomized by the trajectory of this organization, the Hungry Child, which was founded in June 1969 in Zagreb, in the premises of the Yugoslav Academy of Sciences and Arts. And if we have a look at the list of the personalities that gathered there for the inaugural session, we can find a very diverse group of people, because there were renowned personalities of the Yugoslav cultural establishment, from Veljko Bulajic to Oskar Davičo. There was the honorary president of the Yugoslav Red Cross. There were leaders of faith-based religious communities. There were journalists, Pero Zlatar, and there were also the American and Czechoslovak consuls in Zagreb. So I think that the implicit message was that such a group of people could have gathered in Yugoslavia only, but also the fact that the mobilization against children starvation, against hunger in the world, had some potential for unifying diverse groups of people. So the mission of the organization was, I'm quoting, the struggle against hunger affecting all children of all the nations, regardless of their race, skin color, religious belonging, national and political orientation. And I don't know that much about Vladimir Palecek, the founder, although I tried hard to find some information, but what is sure is that from the very beginning he stood out for his bombastic statements. For instance, he stated that the name of the organization was International Fund Hungry Child, and it was International Fund because he believed that Yugoslavia was too small to save all the children of the world. So what we can see, especially in the infancy of this organization, that initially tried to speak the language of the Yugoslav state, so it advertised the support it received from members of the Yugoslav establishment and also from international organizations, and it stressed that its activities contributed to enhancing Yugoslavia's diplomatic prestige. And for instance, in one of the publication edited by the Hungry Child, there is a copy of a letter that Palecek allegedly received from Tito, in which Tito wished good luck to the organization, but mentioned the fact that they should have part of the Socialist Alliance of the Working People, so that such an effort could have been possible only in the framework of the Socialist Alliance of the Working People. So within a couple of years, the Hungry Child grew into a powerful organization that sent aid to an impressive number of countries, and also to Yugoslavia, to some particular groups like orphans or in case of natural disasters. How this worked in practice, the Hungry Child had different strategies. Some strategies were rooted in traditional philanthropy, so donations were collected in churches, funerals, they sold greeting cards, they collected and resold artworks, but there were also practices clearly borrowed from the Socialist Alliance of the Working People. For instance, the Hungry Child collected donations in kind and money from working collectives and from companies. And from 1975, it organized the week for the struggle against hunger, which was clearly inspired by the week of solidarity with the liberation movement, which was organized by the Socialist Alliance. And maybe the last bizarre point was that it somehow anticipated the so-called celebrity humanitarianism that would gain traction in the 1980s, because they tried to reach out to the powerful of the world. So the Hungry Child sent letters to an impressive number of personalities worldwide: Willy Brandt, Mao Zedong, Georges Pompidou, Alexei Kosygin, Richard Nixon. And this is a letter that the Hungry Child allegedly sent to Nixon, in which he proposed that Nixon would send one fragment of the moon, which would be later sold in an auction, and in this way it was argued that space exploration would have acquired the humanitarian connotation. So what was the narrative championed by the Hungry Child? Hunger was framed as a natural disaster, there was the recurrent image of hunger as the biblical metaphor of the hunger as the apocalypse night, and there were no reflections on its roots. And children were regarded as mere bodies to be fed and saved. And this somehow went hand in hand with the religious discourse. So initially, the hungry child emphasized the support it received from different religious organizations, but as time went by, the proximity with the Catholic Church became increasingly evident, as it was its popularity among Catholics all over Yugoslavia. So the organization was founded in Zagreb, in Croatia, but it could count on many supporters. In Slovenia, especially among the readership of the weekly Družina, which regularly published appeals for donations, and it was also popular in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And this religious impetus was somehow corroborated by the fact that Palecek used to present himself as a kind of lay missionary, ready to sacrifice his life for this cause. So, a quote from one of these publications: "I have no private life, I will be honest. I am surrounded by pain." So as you can imagine, there were several grounds for conflict with the state. The main one revolved around the fact that such an initiative was not supposed to exist outside of the Socialist Alliance of the Working People. And even more so, the hungry child often engaged in an open competition with the humanitarian endeavors undertaken by the Socialist Alliance, which in some occasions resulted in a lack of donation for the initiatives championed by the Socialist Alliance. And also, the organization learned to play with some ambiguity. So apparently, it was not always clear to both Yugoslav and international donors what the hungry child was, the fact that it was not a state actor. And also, for instance, its emblem somehow reminded the United Nations emblem. Moreover, in the early 1970s, Palecek seemed to conduct his own foreign policy. He was invited and received with all honors by heads of foreign countries and invited them to Yugoslavia. This happened in Sudan in 1971 and in Chile the year after. So from the 1971, the organization began being targeted with allegations of supposed irregularities and mismanagement of donations. And from 1973, suspicion toward the space of maneuver that the Catholic Church had gained through charitable initiatives increased. And in a 1974 meeting of the Socialist Alliance of the Working People of Slovenia, there was a discussion on the topic of charitable initiatives run by religious organizations, which were deemed as a pure transfer of the bourgeois world in our reality. And as such, they should have been avoided. But also keeping an eye on the risk of steering additional arrest. Because I think that the widespread support that the hungry child enjoyed within the Catholic circles, on one hand, concerned the authorities, but it also protected them. In another meeting of the Slovenian branch of the Socialist Alliance in 1975, there was one of the members mentioned that should we punish these activities administratively, we should report almost all the priests to the court. And of course, it was not advisable to report all the priests to the court. So the Socialist Alliance attempted to both bring the hungry child under its umbrella, which happened in the mid-1970s, and distancing it from Palecek. The conflict finally erupted in 1979, 1980, when the assets of the organization were confiscated and allocated to the Red Cross of Yugoslavia. Unfortunately, all the archives I consulted in Belgrade, Zagreb, and Ljubljana do not contain any material on this final confrontation, but I think that the Yugoslav context can provide some possible explanations. In 1978, Pope John Paul II was elected, and this infused new impetus in Eastern European Catholicism. He visited Croatia in 1979, at the end of a decade in which the Catholic Church had gained significant social relevance and political influence. And maybe this is the most interesting thing. In 1979, there was the United Nations Year of the Child. The Yugoslav bishops used this Year of the Child to launch a campaign advocating for a ban on abortion, framing abortion as a form of violence against children. So it was possibly in the context of this very politicized understanding of Catholicism that the crackdown on the hungry child happened. In 1980, Palecek was sentenced to prison, and by the mid-1980s, he emerged again as a fighter for the rights of unborn children. So this falls outside the focus of our presentation, but I think that this trajectory is telling, because it is very much shaped by the shifting zeitgeist in the Catholic world and the emergence of a new conservative Catholic strand in the 1980s that merged anti-communist and anti-abortion campaigns. So I think that I'm out of time, but I will attempt to draw some conclusions. So why these two cases are important? First and foremost, because I wanted to show that Western and socialist humanitarianism were not two detached realms, but instead Yugoslavia was a place of encounters for different trends. The Biafra crisis is regarded as a watershed for Western-led humanitarianism, but we can see that it was also a crucial turning point for the Yugoslav context. Second, humanitarian initiative did not only follow developments in foreign policy and domestic matters, but they contributed in shaping them. Humanitarian aid was a tool to enhance Yugoslav prestige abroad. In some cases, it was also instrumental in testing possible international alliances. And moreover, humanitarianism was regarded by different actors as a tool to mobilize society, but the society could be mobilized in various directions, as the case of the hungry child testifies. And last but not least, I think that these case studies show the plurality of actors within the Yugoslav system, both state and non-state actors. And this does not mean that all the actors had the same legitimacy or that they were on an equal footing. Clearly, this was not the case, but they existed. So the hungry child was ostracized by the state, but it managed to operate for 10 years and to send aid to tens of countries. So I think that we should acknowledge this plurality, at the same time acknowledging the fact that this plurality was contested. And I think I will stop here. Thank you very much for your attention, and apologies for that interruption at the beginning.
Okay, so now it's time for questions. For anyone on Zoom, please write them in the comments. And if anyone in person has a question, you are welcome to open.
Also comments or...
Yeah, if not, let me start. So, with the Hungry Child Initiative in Slovenia, was it popular mostly or I guess, donations collected by priests, or do you know if it came to media or stuff? Because it was debated in the Slovenian Socialist Alliance. So how prominent was it here in the end?
I think I'm still in the process of making sense of the sources, but I think that it was prominent. It was very prominent in Catholic press, so in Glas Concila or in Družina,
Yeah.
but it was also, appeals were also published in other media outlets, for instance, Večernji list or Slobodna Dalmacija. So it get to diverse groups of people. The question, what I'm trying to understand was were the intentions of people that decided to donate for this organization. Whether it was because at the beginning, I think that it was a reaction triggered by the horrifying photographs that were circulating, this idea of the innocent victims, the idea that there should be some kind of bottom-up organization. But already in 1971, the connection with the Catholic Church were very clear. And so I suppose that those who donated did so with a clear background in mind of what they were doing. And also the weekly Družina published until for a couple of years the list of the donors. Every week published the list of the donors, and some of them were anonymized, while some other published their names and surnames. So it would be also interesting to understand why some names were anonymized, if it was like a call for, I mean, an elegant way to donate money, not to advertise themselves as donors, or if there were some fear of putting their names and surnames. Yeah, but still throughout the 1970s, news on the activities of the Hungry Child were published all over Yugoslavia, also in Barba, which was, I mean, the official outlet, media outlet of the League of the Communists in Yugoslavia.
Okay, I just want to ask a question about this. When you are discussing this movement, also this movement about protecting the unborn child, you emphasize all the time the Catholic Church. You emphasize cases of Croatia, cases of Slovenia. What about the Orthodox Church? What about the Muslim religious organization? For them, this is also as well one of the very crucial questions. Were they completely out of the religion? They supported or were indifferent?
Okay, yeah, thank you for this question. You are talking about the Hungry Child or other
About this in the 80s, when you were talking about the 80s and this Bellatrix idea about
Okay,
unborn child.
Okay. I think that this movement for the right of unborn children, which is very interesting because it uses the language of human rights to advocate against reproductive rights, was very much connected with the Catholic Church at the European level. In the case of Palecek, he mentions an initiative which was launched in Vienna in 1985 and 1986. So I think that there were no connection with other religious communities, but it is possible that other religious communities launched similar campaigns, although the question of abortion, I think that it is very much prominent in the Catholic agenda, much more than in other religious agendas.
Hey, Marco, and then we also have a question from Zoom.
Thank you for this, and to all those stories I actually did not know anything about it, but it's very interesting. Do you know how what were the relations towards that? Do you know the sources in Croatia and in Slovenia? Were they different between Croatia and Slovenia? How they related to this initiative? So, because their republics were pretty much independent regarding those policies, and I think I'm just asking you because this was in Croatia. I didn't know that it was also in Slovenia, and Catholic Press was involved, even the others. But I'm also curious: did Croatians, the Socialist Alliance, also look with skepticism on this, or was that more on? Can you, I don't know, precise? Was there any difference, simply to put it, between Slovenia and Croatia, because regarding this initiative, because it originated in Croatia, it's Croatian initiative.
Yeah.
Was more embedded into the Croatian scene, or was seen more as a dangerous, or maybe?
I think that this was regarded as a big issue all over Yugoslavia. I mean, because it is discussed also at the federal level in Croatia and in Slovenia, or at least these are the sources I consulted. The feeling I got was that Slovenia was faster in somehow circumscribing the space of maneuver of the hungry child, while in Croatia there was a negotiation that went on for a couple of years, because what the Socialist Alliance tried to do in Croatia, in Slovenia, was I think that they from 1973 they were prevented from collecting donations in the territory of Slovenia, but donations kept arriving, especially through church circles. In Croatia, there was a negotiation that went on for 7-8 years between the Socialist Alliance of Croatia and the Hungry Child, revolving about the possibility to co-opt the hungry child within the Socialist Alliance, which happened in the mid-1970s, but still the organization was not completely controlled by the Socialist Alliance, so it managed to act independently for a couple of more years. So I think that the Socialist Alliance in Croatia was more sensitive because there were more connections with politics in Croatia than in Slovenia. I think that in Slovenia, or at least my feeling is that those who donated were mostly individuals, readers of Družina, or...
Because Družina had its own distribution. It was not, you could not, in the religious press was not to be bought in the, I don't know, in kiosks and so on. So you can only get it in church and by post. So yeah, this is, if there were only this circles, it could be relatively close circles. So it'd be nice to see also Slovenian newspapers if they advertise that. According to if I understand, Slovenian side was more skeptical about that than Croatian way. Letting the church to get into the field of humanitarianism.
Yeah, I think that in Croatia there were much more prominent political implications that were related to the, in the early 1970s, they were related to the Croatian Spring, because there was there are still, I still have open questions, but for example, also Peroslatar was like the person number 2 in The Hungry Child. Then he was ousted in 1972 or 1973, but he's also a key personality. And what is interesting for Croatia is that for the Socialist Alliance of Croatia is that their negotiation aimed at co-opting the hungry child in the Socialist Alliance and depriving it of its meaning from inside. So incorporating it and preventing it for to do any mobilizing activity, but avoiding a direct crackdown on the organization. And it's interesting that what happened at the end was that in 1975, a new board was imposed on the organization with new people brought by the Socialist Alliance, and the clause was inserted in the statute claiming that in case the organization would cease to exist, all the assets would be incorporated by the Red Cross of Yugoslavia.
Okay.
That was what happened in 1980. And in 1980, the Red Cross of Croatia created a new fund called for the hungry children of the world, which tried to continue these campaigns, and they were not very successful. But somehow they understand the potential of humanitarian topics in mobilizing, in keeping the population mobilized.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You answered more than I thought.
Okay, so now I have a question from Paul Stubbs, and it's actually something I was wondering as well. So he says, great presentation, Francesca. A bit of a technical question. What was Hungry Child registered as? Under what law?
There was a huge debate regarding the registration of the hungry child, because I think that there was first a conflict between the different levels. So first it was registered at the federal level, and I think that Bartosz, the well-known jurist, wrote the statute. But the hungry child initially tried to bypass the Croatian authorities by registering the organization at the federal level. I think that the second problem stemmed from the fact that the proper name was the International Fund, Hungry Child, and the first part of the name was contested because there could not exist any organization named as international in Yugoslavia, and I'm not sure about the law. This is something I have to look at. But all these formal details were repeatedly used to try to downside and stop the activities of the organization. So there is, I remember that in the collection of the Socialist Alliance of the Working People in Croatia, there is a huge debate on these technical details, because of course they were a good occasion to get rid of this presence.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, Francesca, thank you very much for the excellent lecture. And with your lecture, we are officially closing this academic year of fellows. And in the beginning of October, we are actually welcoming our 5th generation of fellows at the Institute. And our first lecturer on the 15th of October is going to be Marta Barovic, who is a doctoral candidate at the Central European University. And I think it's a great time to present this, because On the centenary of on her centenary, she will present the life and the political work of Giuseppina Martinuzzi, who was an Istrian and Triestine social and political activist, journal editor, writer, and teacher, active in the northern Adriatic borderland in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And different scholars have described her as the first socialist woman in Istria, the most important socialist and feminist in Trieste, and the champion of women's rights in the Adriatic lands. So I think, considering it's 100 years since she passed away, it's very appropriate that on the 15th of October we hear about her. And also thank you to all of the fellows who presented their research in the past year, including your excellent presentation, of course, to all of the listeners, and see you again, once again at 3 p.m. on the 15th. Bye.
Thank you.